Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Welcome, everyone, to Tech It Out. This is episode 227. Hope you're having a wonderful Christmas this weekend to those who celebrate, and a joyous Kwanzaa to you as well. I trust everyone is remaining healthy and happy this time of year. Be safe out there. Hey, this is the last Tech It Out show of 2021. So I want to sincerely thank you, the listener, for tuning into the program that's designed to break down geek speak into street speak. You know my catchphrase. Whether you're listening to the show on your local talk radio station, as this program airs on more than 100 affiliates each weekend, or in podcast form. Regardless, thank you for your support. Feel free to reach out on social media to say hi if you're around this weekend. Let me know what you're up to over the holidays. I'll spell my name in a moment, but I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if you want to follow me on any of these platforms, I write a tech tip of the day. I link to articles that I write for USA Today, Costco Connection, AARP, and others. I post videos, link to radio interviews. There are giveaways and more. So again, it's Mark Saltzman. Mark with a C, Saltzman with a Z. So MarcSaltzman. All right, we have a great show planned for you this hour. We're going to kick things off with ASUS in a moment with a look at their gaming PCs for 2022. Speaking of computers, after that, we'll chat with Intel about its 50th anniversary of their first commercially produced computer chip. That's right, back to 1971. We'll talk about funding for startups this hour with Intuit. And Inseego will be here to chat about cellular hotspots for getting online, even in remote areas. All of this and more on an all-new Tech It Out. All right, let's kick things off. Not all gaming PCs are created equal. If you're looking to treat yourself to a sweet new setup in 2022, we're going to now hear what's new from ASUS, in particular when it comes to gaming desktop PCs. Joining us on the line to chat is Kenneth Lee, Product Manager for Gaming Desktops at ASUS. Welcome to the show, Kenneth. Good to chat with you.
Hi, Mark. Good to chat with you.
Great. Now, before we talk about gaming desktops, please tell us a bit about ASUS. The company's over 30 years old, right?
Yep, we just went over our 30-year anniversary in 2019. We're a computer electronics company that has a variety of products. You might know us from our notebooks, but we also make desktops, motherboards, graphics cards, pretty much any kind of computer component that you can think of.
Mm-hmm. You also make smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, monitors, everything.
Yeah, pretty much everything.
Well, I'm recording this interview right now with you on an ASUS ZenBook S Flip laptop. So I'm a huge fan of the brand, have been for many years. And people may be surprised that desktops are still popular, but there are some benefits, especially when it comes to gaming over laptops.
Yeah, desktops actually have a good advantage over laptops in terms of longevity and performance for the same price. And that's something that a lot of people have actually realized over the past year and a half, 2 years. With everyone staying at home, is maybe you don't really need that laptop that moves around. Mm-hmm. Because with the desktop, for the same amount, you get a lot better performance. With the bigger box, you can get better thermals, especially for gaming. That's a lot more important. So that's where desktops shine compared to laptops.
And probably part of the longevity story is the fact that desktop PCs, especially those in a tower, are modular. So you can swap out, your graphic card or your hard drive or other components, add more RAM or system memory, where it's not as easy to do that, if at all, with a laptop. Is that fair?
Yeah, so with the desktop, you can be able to swap out, like when a new graphics card comes out, you can be able to take out your old one or swap it out, and you can still keep your CPU, which might still be perfectly fine, instead of having to replace your entire device. That lets you swap out whatever part is holding you back and keep yourself up to date without having to replace your entire machine like you would with a laptop, usually.
And I would also argue with a desktop computer that there are more ports to connect accessories to. There's usually lots of USB ports. There's Ethernet often for wired internet instead of wireless. So there are a lot of advantages. Not to mention, when you buy a laptop, while you can connect an external monitor to it, it already has a screen. But when it's a desktop, you can choose a monitor that's huge if you want, like 30 something inches, instead of being limited to that 13 or 15 inch laptop screen.
Yeah, if you do have like a larger monitor to hit the desktop, it's actually a lot more ergonomic and better for you than using the laptop screen.
Yeah.
Laptop screen's advantage is that you can take it anywhere and you always have a screen with you, but you're hunched over a screen that you're tilting down with. If you look at a lot of the ergonomic videos and articles online, you can always see that it's better just to be able to look straight forward into your monitor, which is a lot more difficult with a laptop.
Great point. And on that note, it's also easier on your wrists and forearms with a keyboard that you can adjust to your comfort. So like with the laptop, you're stuck with that keyboard that's fixed. It's built into the laptop itself, but with an external keyboard, you can position it on your desk or table however you like for maximum comfort and reducing strain, wear and tear on your body. So lots of advantages, but definitely when you're a gamer, you can also have like those transparent towers where you've got all the lights inside and the cooling systems, and it looks really cool when you're getting together with your friends. So with that in mind, Kenneth, let's now chat about ASUS's gaming laptops. Are they from ASUS, or is that one of your subsidiaries, which is ROG, or Republic of Gamers? Are we talking today about ASUS gaming devices?
So all of our gaming desktops are Republic of Gamer gaming desktops, so ROG branded.
So that's what we're talking about today. It won't be labeled specifically as ASUS. It'll say Republic of Gamers or ROG on it, right?
Yes. So ROG is actually our gaming brand that started in 2006 when we realized we wanted a gaming brand to help resonate with gaming-focused customers who specifically pick their devices to play games on. Mm-hmm. And since then, we've grown to having our ROG brand on pretty much all our devices, our monitors, laptops, desktops, routers, even keyboards, mice, pretty much any kind of device you might need for your computer and gaming.
Now, before we start talking about specific models that ROG has for 2022, what are some of the things to look for in a gaming desktop?
Well, besides price, which is pretty obvious, the key things you want to look at: performance, thermals, and noise. Performance basically means what is it going to hit the performance that you need, because you have to take a look at what kind of games you're going to be playing and look at the minimum specs to make sure you're meeting those minimum specs.
And performance includes things like the CPU or the processor. That's the engine that drives the performance of your PC. Then there's graphics technology, right? Graphics cards like from NVIDIA or what have you for rendering 3D images. And then RAM also plays a role here, system memory.
Yes. And number two is thermals. So thermals kind of relates to longevity of your device, because basically heat is the thing that kills your computer over time. So if you have good thermals, your computer is going to last a longer time, and then you'll be able to keep that CPU or GPU around for, instead of only 2 or 3 years, maybe 5, 6, potentially 7 years, and you'll be able to keep it around for a while longer.
Awesome. And talk to us about noise. How do you look for something that has lower noise than others? Is that like listed? Like on the specs? Typically,
it might be listed depending on what the manufacturer puts out. For our devices, all our devices are tested to be less than 40 decibels, which is the noise of the background noise of a library. So from about 3 feet away.
Awesome.
I think it's pretty obvious why you want noise. When you're playing games or anything, you would rather hear the sounds from the game and immerse yourself in there rather than a giant fan blowing.
We are chatting with Kenneth Lee. He is product manager for gaming desktops at ASUS. Specifically, we're talking about the gaming division within ASUS called ROG. These are a collection of award-winning devices, including laptops. But today we are talking about desktops. And with that in mind, Kenneth, talk to us about some of the hottest ASUS gaming desktop models that we can pick up.
Yeah, so our key model is going to be the G15, the ROG Strix G15. This is a 29-liter chassis it comes with a carry handle and a headset hanger. But basically, it goes all the way up to a RTX 3070, so pretty much the best balance for performance and thermals that you can get.
And just to bring everybody up to speed, what you just referred to with the RTX is the graphics cards, the GPU performance.
Yep, and on our highest end, we have a G35 desktop. It has the NVIDIA RTX 3090 and the AMD Ryzen 9 5900X. So this is our most premium SKU, and basically will handle anything you can possibly throw at it.
All right. You've got other models too, but those are your flagship ones.
Yeah, we have all models all the way up from $899 all the way up to $4,000. So we cover a huge breadth of price range depending on whatever your budget is.
Okay, cool. And then before we wrap up, Kenneth, let's say you're perfectly happy with your existing gaming PC. What are some of the popular accessories that you can get to add like peripherals to your computer?
Yeah, well, you can always take a look at buying some things to add on like monitors, a nice mechanical keyboard. Wireless mice have improved over the past couple of years, so maybe that's something you might want to take a look at.
Right, because it used to be gaming journalists like myself would always just recommend a wired mouse for better performance, right? A lower latency.
Yeah, but with the recent improvements in technology, we're able to get really low latency wireless mice now. So now you don't even have to carry around that cord.
Yeah.
Keeps everything looking a lot cleaner.
Awesome. And then with those keyboards that you were talking about, the mechanical keyboards, they are RGB, right? They light up and they can go in along with the game, or you can program it in other ways too. But a lot of people like that.
Yeah, they're light up, they're RGB. They can go to whatever sound comes out of the game, or even if you wanted to match the music when you're listening to music, you can also do that too.
And I guess wireless headsets are also popular too. So you can hear the music privately and then also trash talk with those friends online because it's got a microphone built in.
Yeah, and typically they have a better surround sound than like a speaker.
All right. Awesome, Kenneth. What's the best website to learn more about the ROG desktop PCs and some accessories as well?
We can go to rog.asus.com.
All right, so that's ROG, which stands for Republic of Gamers, .asus.com, ASUS.com. Really great chatting with you, Kenneth. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm wishing you all the best for a happy and healthy 2022.
All right, thanks for your time, Mark. It's nice chatting with you.
And as you likely know, ASUS is the title sponsor on this program. Thank you to ASUS for your ongoing support as well as we wrap up another year of Tech It Out. Speaking of computers, when we return, we're going to chat with Intel about a huge milestone. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. In today's techie world, a huge milestone has to be acknowledged. Intel's first commercially produced processor, dubbed the 4004, went on sale 50 years ago. It only had 2,300 transistors, but packed onto one chip. So that was a really big deal in its day. From what I'm told, I was a 1-year-old at the time, so I couldn't tell you. But let's fast forward to 2021 and chat now with Intel's Marcelo Bertolami. He is the America's Territory General Manager at Intel, and we're here to chat about the significance of this milestone. Welcome to the show, Marcelo.
Hi, Mark. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's chat about this milestone, this 50th anniversary. Very exciting. What was the original Intel 4004 chip all about?
Actually, this is a great story because before that we were doing memories, and we were hired by this company from Japan to put to build several small parts to build a calculator. And our engineers decided to say, okay, why we don't put all these things together, these 12 isolated things or discrete things in one piece of silicon, and we can actually start a programming that. And then the whole thing started with that, and then they came with the idea of building the first microprocessor. That means that it's programmable, and you actually run a program and do different things over it. And that's the first one that we did, and was for a calculator. Actually, was the Musicom, and so there was the name of the calculator. And then that you can build several type of calculator with this chip, and you can do different type of operations with that. So that was it.
That's great. That's great. And I remember, I love science fiction movies from the 60s. And I know that the computers back then, unless it was sensationalized, but they were often as big as a room. And they had all kinds of, dials and tapes and cards that they took. This is what the environment was like.
Yeah, remember that at that time, the memory was built on magnetic cores.
Right.
So Intel, when it started, it was starting doing memory in silicon. So that was the first revolutionary step that we did. And then we start putting logic in the chips to actually build a microprocessor. So when you look at the huge ENIAC, when in the 1945, when they started with this huge machine to do calculation of for the boats in the Second World War.
Right.
Then you go to the different type of machines, and that's right. It's You have all these tapes and everything that were storage, and then you have the memory with the magnetic cores and everything. So that's why we're so huge. And before the transistors, they were the bulbs. So imagine the size of that.
Mm-hmm. And how big was the Intel 4004 chip?
Oh, it's tiny. Actually, I would say it's compared with that, it's very small. It's a piece that can have 1 centimeter long and or a little more. When you look at this, it's the same size of the chip that we have today, but the amount of transistors that we have in that chip at that time was only 2,300. But today, in the same size, we have billions.
Wow. That really drives the point home. We are chatting with Marcelo Bertolami. He is the Americas Territory General Manager at Intel Corp, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the world's first commercially available microprocessor that Intel developed back in 1971. It had only 2,300 transistors at the time, and now that same size chip could have billions of transistors. And we're also talking, Marcelo, about things like artificial intelligence, augmented technologies on top of it all, things that can drive autonomous vehicles and IoT or Internet of Things, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yes, actually, when you look at the processor, this processor is not going to be only in a laptop computer or in a desktop computer. Actually, it's running the whole data center. And all the cloud service providers today that are running, they run on Intel. And they have a ton of processors. They're running all these workloads for the end user customers and running everything. So even if you take your cell phone and you have all your applications, if you are connected, you're going to have the cloud running your applications. If you are disconnected, you're not going to have anything. So there is no intelligence in the cell phone. Everything is in the cloud. And then when you talk about artificial intelligence to recognize a speech or to recognize images, think about the power of a car that drives itself. Think about the amount of power that you need, processing power that you need to make decisions in the car, because that car needs to make decisions real time. So it's kind of a data center on wheels. You're going to have connection to the data center to take the information of the maps. You're going to have connection with other cars to see how the traffic is going, even using 5G. But the computer on the car is going to be making decisions based on all the cameras that you have that have their own intelligence to define if you are going behind a car or you're going to hit a person or whatever. Imagine the amount of AI that you need in order to have this self-driving vehicles.
Not to mention the infrastructure needs to be there, like 5G, 6G, 7G, and so on. So yeah, very exciting times. And Intel has certainly pivoted to embrace this next generation of tech devices and systems. Very exciting times for the company. Marcelo, thanks for joining us to talk about the anniversary of the Intel 4004 chip. And I can't wait to see what Intel is cooking up for 2022 and beyond. Thanks again for your time. All the best.
Thank you, Mark.
You've heard of and maybe even used products like TurboTax, QuickBooks, and Mint. Well, when we return, we'll tell you what else the company Intuit has in store, especially for those startups, those scrappy young companies looking to get ahead. So we'll be right back to learn about the Intuit Prosperity Accelerator A.I. Stick with us. More when we return.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. You probably know the company Intuit. They've got products that you're aware of and likely use, like TurboTax and QuickBooks and maybe Mint and such. But today, we're going to learn all about the Intuit Prosperity Accelerator A.I. It's a 5-month program that will leverage the power of artificial intelligence to advance the financial prosperity of consumers and businesses across North America. To tell us all about it, we're joined by David Marquis, executive sponsor of the Intuit Prosperity Accelerator. Welcome, David. Good to chat with you.
Thanks so much, Mark. Great to be here.
Now, before we talk about Intuit Prosperity Accelerator AI, talk to us a bit about Intuit. Again, you're the folks behind TurboTax, QuickBooks, and Mint, right?
That's correct. Intuit is a company that basically has a global technology platform that helps both businesses and consumers with their most important financial challenges. So we serve more than 100 million customers worldwide.
Wow.
You mentioned TurboTax, QuickBooks, Mint, Credit Karma, and recently MailChimp, which is another tech company we recently acquired.
Right. Yeah, congrats. I remember reading about that. All right. So with those kinds of products, you might know a little something about financial success. So let's chat now about your work with this accelerator. Again, it's called the Intuit Prosperity Accelerator AI, and you've partnered with Highline Beta, correct? What's that all about?
Yeah, so listen, let me talk a bit about our mission before I hit the accelerator. Our mission is to power prosperity around the world. And that means for consumers or for small businesses, we really care about their financial prosperity. We really care that they're making the right decisions and that ultimately they're living the best lives that they can live. And so that drives us every day. And when we think about this accelerator, it was really a question of like, okay, how do we extend beyond our four walls and actually start working with others in the ecosystem that also are interested in powering the ultimate end consumer's prosperity? And so we identified a bunch of startups that we're excited to work with on this topic and help them in turn help consumers live more prosperous lives.
So an accelerator, just for those who aren't familiar with that phrase, this is an organization that often secures funding for small sort of up and coming companies, right? Like startups.
That's correct. So we partnered, you mentioned Highline Beta. Mm-hmm. They're our partner in this accelerator. They're experts in running, filtering and running these accelerator programs. What Intuit's bringing to the table is we are, bringing our mission, bringing our know-how. We're going to support these startups. But basically, we're going to partner with them to figure out, how can we help them accelerate even faster? That's the biggest thing that startups need at the start is support and advice and ways to kind of get to product market fit faster and get to impact faster.
All right. There's 7 startups that were identified in some top technology hubs like Toronto, Montreal, San Francisco, and New York. Talk to us about some of the highlights, if you will.
Yeah, listen, we're so excited. There's 7. I think we had at some point hundreds of startups that we were looking at as part of the process, but we narrowed it down to 7 amazing startups across those centers that you just mentioned. And this cohort of startups they're going to be focusing on AI-driven solutions. So when we think about the technology space, a really important lever right now, really important technology is something called, obviously people have heard of AI, but they're applying AI to this prosperity challenge and helping companies and individuals get more money, have complete confidence about their financial decisions, and basically taking all the friction out of work, making it more easy to get to the end outcomes that they want. And so, just to use an example, Vanquish, which is a New York-based startup, they're a marketplace that's providing gig workers and freelancers a simple way to access affordable banking. So they're addressing that pain point for this gig worker economy. And, just an example of one of the startups and what they do.
Awesome. And what about a startup north of the border, David?
Yeah, there's this great startup out of Waterloo, which is a tech center, obviously in Canada, called Adaptive Pulse. And what Adaptive Pulse does is they have this analytical platform which helps companies work on understanding their customers better so that they can retain them better and, provides a whole suite of analytical tools around that. And that's great for individuals as well, because the people that they're serving end up getting services that are better suited to their needs. It's personalizing the experiences for end consumers.
We are chatting with David Marquis, executive sponsor of the Intuit Prosperity Accelerator AI, or artificial intelligence is the focus here in their partnership with Highline Beta to identify some startup deserving of some funding. And I know it's hard to choose them. And with that in mind, how did you select these 7 in particular?
It's funny. We had all these criteria, that they're of a certain size, they're of a certain growth rate, they're focused in certain technology spaces. But when it came down to it, it was often around the founders themselves, the culture fit and the fit with our culture within Intuit. And it's a team at the end of the day. We are teaming up with these startups. We're trying to provide them support. And it's ultimately about the people. And so that was one critical factor that played into the process as well.
When it comes to investing, David, how does this model work exactly? Is it equity in the company? It's not like raw funds or anything.
Actually, this particular accelerator program, by design, we're not taking any equity in the startup.
Okay.
Our sole purpose, again, linked to our mission of powering prosperity for all, is to help these startups so they can help the end consumers. And so in that sense, we're not taking any ownership, we're not taking any equity, we're solely there to help. It's sort of a technology for good initiative that we just care about because it's linked to our mission, and we want to help others be successful in the space.
And before we wrap up, David, what do these startups get exactly then from you or from Highline Beta?
Well, I think what they get from Highline Beta is a great accelerator experience, much like they would get. There's different accelerators that startups can qualify for, and so it's things like, helping them get funding, or helping them with hiring, or helping them with functional requirements across marketing, sales, et cetera. But what Intuit brings to the table is we bring knowledge of the space, distribution to our end customers. We bring also an innovation process that we call Design for Delight that we believe is a competitive advantage, and we share that with these startups to help them accelerate even faster.
All right. And is there a website, David, to learn more about this Intuit Prosperity Accelerator AI, this 5-month program?
Yeah, if you just Google it, exactly that, Intuit Prosperity Accelerator, you'll find it.
All right. And maybe if you do it again in 2022, if those who are listening run a small business or they work for a startup and they'd love to throw their hat in there, perhaps there's some information at that website too.
Absolutely. We're a North American-wide program. So yes, please apply if you're interested.
All right. David, great to chat with you. Congrats on this. And thanks for all your work that you do with Highline Beta. This is great.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
You're listening to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. Head over to asus.com/US/radio to take a look at their awesome laptops, desktops, and accessories. When we return, Inseego joins us to tell us what's new. We'll be right back.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Check it out. Hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Before we go to our next interview with Inseego, we've been talking a lot about computers this show with ASUS, followed by Intel. So on a related note, I wanted to remind you to don't forget to properly back up your important files on a regular basis. Make it part of your routine going into 2022. I've had this happen to me as well, where you think things are backed up, something happens, and your files are just gone. It's a horrible feeling, especially, irreplaceable photos and videos, important documents, home movies, all of that. So make sure you've got a couple of backup solutions. I always trust Western Digital drives as well as SanDisk drives. So I love external hard drives and solid state drives and thumbsticks and all that. And of course, also leverage the cloud as well, some services that you can upload your files to. If you don't want to remember to always back up your important files, you can download free software from Western Digital's website that will automatically, like every night at say 2 a.m., back up your files externally for safekeeping. So take advantage of all of that. All right, let's continue on with the show. Especially if you work from home, even part-time, you know how critical good internet is. And it's certainly true for those who may live in a remote location where there may not be reliable and strong Wi-Fi. And so personal hotspots are popular, those MiFi devices. And so we're going to learn what's new with 5G-ready solutions from the folks that invented this category, Inseego. Joining us on the line to chat is Adam Gould, SVP of Product Management at Inseego. Welcome to the show, Adam. Good to chat with you.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
Now, before we talk about Inseego, the company, which is spelled Inseego, and its various offerings, let's first cover what 5G is all about. There's been so much hype about this 5th generation of wireless connectivity. Can you break it down for us?
Sure. For my background, I've actually been in the cellular world for many years. I like to joke, it's not really a joke, unfortunately, but that 5G is actually my 7th generation of wireless. So I've been around for a long time. And 5G really is very different from previous generations. Previous generations were all about giving you some extra data speeds. Now, that certainly is one big piece of 5G. The data speeds that you're going to get are phenomenally higher than what you've seen in previous generations of cellular. But there's a few other things that are important as well that, especially I'll keep it to the kind of consumer side of things. Lots of enterprise uses this also. One of those is very low latency. So what that means is the time it takes to get data from your device up to the cloud and back is much smaller in 5G than it was previously. And so for new applications like gaming or AR, augmented reality, or VR, virtual reality, these are incredibly important to really bring that to the kind of common usage. Then the third thing is what's known as massive machine connection. So one of the things that's happening in the world is lots of connected devices. I myself have over 200 connected devices in my home, light switches and bulbs and Ring doorbells, and they're all controlled by 22 Amazon Alexas, right? I'm obviously, kind of the tech geek and not the normal person.
You don't say.
But, a few years from now, I might be that new normal person. And that ability to handle all those devices that are going to be connected, street lights and parking meters and parking spots and all this kind of stuff, 5G is really crucial for that. And then the final thing is lots of new spectrum. And what that means is more capacity for the network. And the reason that's important, I like to give an analogy. When you compare when a wireless operator starts to throttle your data speeds at, say, 20 gigabytes in a month, whereas when you have your cable network at home, they start to, give you a hard time when you start to go over a terabyte. And the reason is the limited amount of capacity that cellular networks have as compared to those wired home networks. That's what 5G is going to change. It's really going to start to close that gap between what you can get from wired and then what you can get from wireless everywhere you go.
All right, so we have smartphones like iPhone and Samsung and all that are 5G ready. But if we want other devices in our home to benefit from these faster speeds, lower latency, all that kind of stuff, everything you were just chatting about, this is where Inseego comes in with its mobile hotspots. And as I said in my introduction, it's especially ideal in remote areas. I have a lot of friends that work in summer cabins or cottages, what have you. Can you please explain what a mobile hotspot or MiFi device is?
Sure. A mobile hotspot is real simple. It's basically taking that in a form factor that's sort of the size of your cell phone, let's say, taking that 5G signal and then turning it into a local Wi-Fi network for you. So all your Wi-Fi connected devices could be tablets, could be your laptop, could be your TV, what have you. They can connect, and they can connect because they're battery powered in a very mobile and flexible way. You can bring that Wi-Fi network with you wherever you might go. And it's certainly remote areas is one of those value-added environments, but especially in the last couple of years, we've gone to this work from home and what the industry is calling WFX, work from anywhere, right? Or educate or school from anywhere as well. You really have to have that flexibility nowadays to connect all of your different device types wherever you might be working, learning, playing, whatever you might be using wireless for.
Got it. All right, I have a question that I'm going to ask when we return to our guest from Inseego. I wasn't planning on asking this, but I think it's an interesting question, so stick with us. You are listening to Tech It Out on the last show of 2021, so we're going to continue learning about Inseego's various solutions when we return. Don't forget to say hi on social media if you're around. It's Mark with a C, Saltzman with a Z. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We are chatting with Adam Gould, Senior Vice President of Product Management at Inseego. They are the creators of these personal MiFi hotspots. They also have a line of FWA or fixed wireless access devices, kind of like small routers that you would place in your home and you would join all your Wi-Fi devices to it, but then it converts it into 5G connectivity for cellular reception. I wasn't planning on asking you this, but if 5G lives up to the hype, where eventually it could be upwards of 100 times faster than 4G or LTE, could it lead to the third wave of cord cutting at home? First wave being, ditching your landline in favor of cellular, and then second, maybe cutting your cable in favor of streaming services. Could we cancel our home Wi-Fi if 5G is better?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the first kind of step towards that, the thing that 5G is bringing to consumers is what's known as fixed wireless access. So what that means is the wireless operators now wanting to provide you your home internet and other types of services to compete with the local cable guys or other wired providers. Today, when you're at home, your choice of your internet provider is really one, right? It's the local cable guy, and that's about it for most people. Now, with this FWA technology, you're able to use 5G as your internet connection for your home. And now you'll have a choice of, say T-Mobile as an example. We just launched a device at T-Mobile actually that allows you to do exactly this kind of thing. Now your choice of home providers is much more flexible. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the location of your home is much more flexible as well, because you're not wired into that spot on the earth. So, people are using that same kind of concept in, RVs and, you mentioned your summer cottage and, that kind of stuff, right? It's bringing that connection everywhere you go.
But you would need unlimited data though, right? I mean, if you stream Netflix for a few hours and then you're on Spotify and playing your Xbox or PlayStation over the internet, I mean, that's really going to add up quickly. So that's kind of key.
It does add up quickly, no question. And that's actually why I brought up that capacity point a minute ago, because of Netflix streaming and that kind of stuff. I myself regularly use over a terabyte in a month, which, 4G just wouldn't be able to handle. But that's what 5G is all about.
Can you talk to us about some of your latest models? And do you buy them outright or do you rent them? Is it from your carrier or get them from you?
Yeah, it would typically come from a local wireless operator like T-Mobile, okay, also Verizon, AT&T, et cetera, US Cellular. So we, all of those guys, they offer you a service for home access. We have, a variety of different device types, and kind of the one you want is really somewhat dependent on, your own personal situation. So in other words, we've got some device types that mount outdoors on, say, your roof, good for a kind of a more remote type of location. Then we have a couple of different types of indoor units.
A couple of other questions for you, Adam. One is about security. It's been said that using these MiFi hotspots, a cellular connection is safer than your own Wi-Fi. Is that right? Certainly public Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, then that's a big value, especially, if you're using, you mentioned public Wi-Fi, but yeah, whereas when you're bringing your hotspot with you, that Wi-Fi network, it's yours. It's got your own password, it's got your own security setup, and it's then being connected over a 5G link, which is extremely secure. What it also does is, a big part of the work from home world is the IT guy at your company giving you a hotspot to bring home with you and use that as your work from home network.
And then finally, how much do these Inseego products cost, like starting at? And I know, again, data is separate, that you would typically pay your provider. And where can we learn more about this line of Inseego devices?
You can always go to www.inseego.com. We have products that are being carried by T-Mobile, by Verizon, by AT&T, US Cellular. That's really where you would get that device. And so you can go into your local store. And as far as pricing, it's honestly a little hard to answer that, because different operators have different rate plans depending, may subsidize the device.
Right. But I've seen them for like $99.
Absolutely. That's certainly the kind of price range you see.
And it's been great chatting with you, Adam. Thanks so much for your time. Adam Gould has been our guest. He's with Inseego, INSWGO.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for tuning into this last episode of Tech It Out for 2021. If you're itching to use any gift cards you received over the holidays. Before you shop, make sure you go to slickdeals.net and look for the best deals both online and at retail. Thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor on this program, and a huge thank you to Western Digital and SanDisk as well. I'm wishing you all a very healthy and happy holiday season. Enjoy a little R&R, I hope, over New Year's, and let's start 2022 with a bang. And I look forward to delivering you the latest in tech news, reviews, and interviews in the new year as well through Tech It Out. Be well, everyone. Ciao for now.